After studying this module, you shall be able to know who are social entrepreneurs, what are their contribution to the society, what are the problems faced by them, and what are the various types of social enterprises which we have in our country. Let me first start with telling you who social entrepreneurs are. You see, these are people who try to solve problems which are rampant in a society. Especially in a country like India, where there are so many problems, often people overlook those problems and they do not try to take up the problems, and they do not like to bring solution to those problems. But social entrepreneurs are a new breed of entrepreneurs who try to find solutions to problems which are rampant in the society. They embrace these problems which are often neglected by others. They are identified with bringing a positive change in people's lives by solving social problems like poverty, illiteracy and unemployment. And we see India has lots of these problems. Poverty, India has quite in large number. Illiteracy, people are quite illiterate, and there is a big problem of unemployment which government also fails to solve. So unfortunately, their efforts, that is the social entrepreneurs, their efforts are often unnoticed and their contribution does not get the appreciation which other breed of entrepreneurs get, which is so unfortunate. In the following part of my lectures, I will be discussing the various concepts of social entrepreneurs in much detail, the challenges which they face and the motivation and their relevance in today's world. So let's first try to find out common definition of social entrepreneur is. Well, you see, there is no one universal definition of the term social entrepreneur or social entrepreneurship. There are different versions of the term social entrepreneur. For instance, they are people who operate in the society and are concerned with caring and helping, then with making money. So this is one concept, that is, social entrepreneurs are not, money making people, which often entrepreneurs are identified with. So social entrepreneurs have a social mission which they try to fulfill. They are volunteers who take up a cause and remain committed to it. So social entrepreneurship is an organizational form in which market-based methods are used in order to address social issues. So there might be market-based, that is money making, but the objective is to address social issues, to solve social problems in the society. Now, coming to the concept of social enterprise, that what are the various kind of organizations which are run by social entrepreneurs? The organizations run by social entrepreneurs are called citizen organizations, and the sector in which it is run is called the citizen sector. A social enterprise is a business with social objectives whose surpluses are reinvested for that purpose back into the business, which means that the social entrepreneurs definitely are not looking for profits and they do not take profits at home. That means whatever income is generated, that is reinvested in their enterprise. Which means that unlike commercial enterprises whose surpluses go to the investors, in a social enterprise the surpluses go back to its beneficiaries. There are three types of SEVs, social entrepreneurial ventures: a non-profit organization, a for-profit business which has both economic and social objectives, and a hybrid that includes for-profit, non-profit and the government in trying to address some larger social issues. Hence, a social enterprise may have various forms, from being a non-profit organization to being a profit organization with social objectives. In a for-profit organization and a hybrid organization, social enterprises combine social aims and ownership with commercial viability. Now you see, commercial viability is important to sustain the business. Without money generation, it is very, very difficult to sustain the business. Therefore, commercial viability is given so much of importance nowadays in social enterprises. The social enterprises generate revenue in order to sustain themselves. So you see, this is so very important. And the revenue generated is then reinvested into the business or the community to meet their social goals. Now, let us see some of the examples of social enterprises. I'll first take the example of Arvind Eye Care. Now this is quite famous not only in India, but the model of Arvind Eye Care is being used by other countries as well. You see, Arvind Eye Care was started by G. Venkataswamy. G. Venkataswamy was a doctor by profession, and in the year 1976 he started Arvind Eye Care. Dr. Venkataswamy studied medicine, and after completion of his medicine, he joined the Indian Army Medical Corps. But after developing rheumatoid arthritis, he retired from the job. Thereafter, he took master's degree in ophthalmology and was soon appointed as the head of the department of ophthalmology in the Madurai Medical College. During this period, he introduced innovative programs. You see, entrepreneurs are supposed to be innovators, they bring innovation. So, Dr. Venkataswamy did bring a lot of innovative programs while he was a doctor. He did these programs to deal with the problem of blindness. He was also bestowed with the Padma Shri Award. Thereafter, in the year 1976, he took voluntary retirement as a doctor, and with the help and support of his family started the Arvind Eye Hospital, which I already said started in the year 1976. Now, Arvind Eye Care Hospital was a non-profit organization which was made to provide high quality eye care for the poor. So you see, they were trying to solve the problem of millions of poor people in India who often become blind because of cataract. And cataract is a very simple operation, but they were not provided with this operation. So Arvind Eye Hospital basically catered to these poor people in India. Now this was a non-profit organization which provided a high quality eye care for the poor. The hospital was established as an alternate healthcare model that could supplement the efforts of the government to meet the health needs of the growing population and also be self-supporting. So you see, when we talk about self-supporting, it means it was self-sustaining. It was able to generate a revenue so that it could sustain itself. The hospital at the moment generates sufficient revenue to sustain itself, and today Dr. Venkataswamy is no more, but his family is taking care of the hospital. Another example which I would like to talk about is Childline. Childline was founded in the year 1996 by Jeru Bilimoria. She was a teacher at the Tata Institute of Social Sciences. She interacted with children staying on railway stations and night shelters of Mumbai and was touched with their plight. You see, there are so many homeless children in India, and they do labor, they work for their living, which is so very sad, and government is not able to do much for them. So Billy Moria, she was touched by their problem, by their poverty and by their miseries. So children in trouble would often call Billy Moria in crisis at her residence and at any point in time. So it used to be day, night, 24 hours she was accessible to these poor children. This made her think for a toll-free 24-hour service number that could work across cities for street children. And as a result, Childline was introduced. This was initiated as an experimental project of the Department of Family and Child Welfare of TIS. TIS means Tata Institute of Social Science. At present, Childline India Foundation is the nodal agency of the Union Ministry of Women and Child Development, acting as the parent organization for setting up, managing and monitoring the Childline 1098 service all over the country. So, any child who is in problem, who is in distress can easily call 1098 and get their problems solved. This is a non-profit organization which works solely for the fulfillment of social objectives. Now let me take a few more examples. I'm sure you all are aware of Lijjat Papad and Amul. I'm sure we all have Amul dairy products at our home, whether it be milk, curd. So let me tell you a little about Lijjat first. You see, Lijjat was a women's cooperative which offered self-employment opportunities to women by making papad. So we all have eaten papad, so we know what Lijjat Papad is. It was started on March 1959 by 7 semi-literate women residing in the city of Mumbai. The cooperative is a for-profit social enterprise which is currently making annual sales of crores of rupees. So you see, this is a cooperative which was meant to help the women who were a part of the Lijjat Papad, but today it is making profits of crores of rupees. So you see how a social enterprise can be profit generating as well. Another example which I've already talked about is of Amul. Now this again is a for-profit social enterprise. It is an Indian dairy cooperative that is jointly owned by millions of milk producers in the state of Gujarat. It was founded in the year 1946. However, Amul grew to prominence with the efforts of Dr. Varghese Kurian, which I am sure we have all heard about. He was the social entrepreneur of India. He joined Amul in 1949. Kurian was known as the father of the White Revolution for his billion-liter idea Operation Flood. Operation Flood was the world's biggest dairy development program. It took India from being a milk-deficient nation to the largest milk producer in the world. It also made dairy farming India's largest self-sustainable rural employment generator. So you see, it not only helped India gain prominence in world as far as dairy farming was concerned, but also made its employees self-sustaining. Today, Amul has an annual return of billions of rupees. In 2013-14, its annual turnover was rupees 18,143 crore rupees. Both Lijjat and Amul were founded on the Gandhian Sarvodaya ideology of trusteeship, with its core principles of self-reliance, collective ownership, profit sharing and cooperation. And they both follow the objective of for-profit with social goals. Now let me talk about the various challenges which social entrepreneurs face. You see, social entrepreneurs are not the normal kind of entrepreneurs. So the kind of challenges which they face are a little different from a normal kind of entrepreneur. Now, there are a number of problems which are faced by social entrepreneurs. One is their own perception. You see, social entrepreneurs consider themselves as social workers. So when you go to a social entrepreneur and tell him that you're an entrepreneur, they are taken aback. They are quite surprised and they say, listen, we are not social entrepreneurs, we are just social workers and we are just trying to solve a problem in the society. So it's quite difficult to convince them and tell them that, see, you are a social entrepreneur and you're not just a social worker. So this is one problem, which is a problem of perception which social entrepreneurs normally feel, and they feel quite uncomfortable on being called entrepreneurs because they are not looking for money, which normally entrepreneurs are. And another is that their contribution is often not, taken care of. People don't accept and don't give so much of importance to their contribution. So despite their significant contribution in the society, social entrepreneurs remain relatively under-acknowledged and their valuable contribution is hidden from the society. You see, even media does not give due, consideration and due credit to social entrepreneurs. Now, one of the examples which comes to my mind is that of Mr. Kailash Satyarthi, whom we did not know much, till he was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in the year 2014. His contribution with children through his Bachpan Bachao Andolan came into media, and all those publicity which he got came much later. Unfortunately, it all came only after he got the Nobel Prize, which is again very sad, in the Indian context, because we generally don't acknowledge the contributions made by social entrepreneurs. Now, social entrepreneurs generally emerge in areas where either the markets have failed or where there are significant institutional voids. So this is again something which is very different from a normal kind of entrepreneurship, because entrepreneurs generally look for opportunities. They get into markets where they see opportunity of making money. But social entrepreneurs, unlike normal kind of entrepreneurs, they get into markets where things have failed, where the markets have failed, or there is no market at all. So they are seen in those areas. Plus, they get into areas where even the government has failed. Like I have already said, poverty, illiteracy, unemployment, these are problems which even the government has failed to solve in India. So these are the problem areas where generally we find NGOs working, non-government organizations. So the contribution of social entrepreneurs is quite immense in India. Now, another problem which social entrepreneurs face is the problem of finance. You see, to start an enterprise, you definitely need finance, because without finance, you cannot operate. So one problem which social entrepreneurs face tremendously is sources of finance. The second is retaining staff. You see, retaining staff, I'll anyway elaborate on those points later, but let us pick some of the points. First is sources of finance, second is retaining staff and adjusting them to different roles, and measuring the impact of their business on their beneficiaries are often the main challenges faced by them in running their organization. Now let me take the staff problem first. You see, attracting and retaining staff with complementary skills to those of the social entrepreneur is a big challenge. Like, for example, if I want to help, let's say, the blind people, I want to start a school for the blind and I want staff for it. You see, I need people who are like-minded, people who want to help the blind people who are compassionate towards the blind people, not normal kind of people who would like to join, you know, my blind school. So I need like-minded people for my organization. Now, this is something which social entrepreneurs find it very difficult. That is attracting and retaining staff with complementary skills to those of the social entrepreneur. Now, apart from having staff with complementary skills, getting those kind of staff with complementary skills being a problem, there is another problem, which is lack of funds. You see, even if social entrepreneurs are able to get people with complementary skills, they need money, they need salary for themselves, and because of lack of funds, the social entrepreneurs are unable to pay money to their employees. Now, it is very difficult for social entrepreneurs to get well qualified and right employees for their enterprises, and even if they do, it is difficult for them to retain them over a period of time because of lack of funds. Now, this is again very, very challenging job for a social entrepreneur. So, financial constraint often hampers them to give job security and attractive salaries to their staff. So, retaining the staff is quite a task for a social entrepreneur. Hence, the staff often consists of volunteers who are either drawn by the charisma of social entrepreneurs or by the mutual interest in serving the target group. So, you see, often people who start social enterprises are joined by people voluntarily, like they are not looking for money, they are not looking for high pay packages. So these are people who join the social entrepreneur because of his or her charisma, and they are also interested in the kind of job which the social entrepreneur is doing. So this kind of trait has been seen in social enterprises. Another, unlike commercial enterprises who gauge success of their business by financial metrics, social entrepreneurs gauge success by subjective, ad hoc measures determined by their stakeholders. You see, this is again very, very problematic, because in a normal business where an entrepreneur can easily gauge success for his business by sales figures, by profit figures, by the kind of cost he is incurring, etc. Here, it's very, very difficult for a social entrepreneur to gauge success because financial metrics are not existing. Here, profit is not there. People are working without profit. So, what is it which tells them about the success? Now, these are all non-financial metrics, and we call them the benefits which has been derived by the beneficiary group or by its various stakeholders. Now, to gauge the benefits derived by the stakeholders, it is quite tough for a social entrepreneur to measure them. Now, measuring the success of a social enterprise is difficult as it relies heavily on non-quantifiable parameters. Let me now tell you some of the non-quantifiable parameters. Now, they can be from a good quality life, to satisfaction level gained by the beneficiaries, their improved standard of living, and their enhanced social status. So, you see, it's very difficult to gauge or to measure the satisfaction level of a society or a stakeholder or of a community. So measuring is often problematic for social entrepreneurs of their social enterprises. Another problem which social enterprises often face is the financial sustenance of their enterprise, because they rely heavily on donations, on funds, on charities. So you see, it's difficult to sustain their business. Traditionally, the non-profit sector was driven by reliance on philanthropy and government subsidy. So this was a big problem. But over the years, both philanthropy and subsidy have substantially reduced. So one of the reasons is because of lack of sustenance, because you cannot sustain your enterprise over a period of time just on the basis of charities and on funds, because there are times when people are not ready to give you donations, there are times when the government is not ready to fund your project anymore or your organization anymore. So what do a social entrepreneur do? So it's very important nowadays for a social entrepreneur to set up an enterprise which is self-sustaining. To sustain the social enterprise without any dependence on philanthropy is now one of the biggest challenges of social entrepreneurs. In the long run, it is the earned revenue and not the donated revenue that leads to sustainability of the organization. So you see how important and relevant it is for an enterprise to be self-sustaining. Thus, today's social entrepreneur is faced with the difficulty of trading off between social and commercial commitments. So he has to decide which way he has to do, because many times they have got into a lot of controversy that an NGO is now looking only for money and for rewards. So somewhere their social mission gets defeated. So they have to keep a good balance between the social mission and the economic objective of their business. There is also a general perception that becoming business oriented, that is for profit, may hold dangers for non-profit, as they may face operational and cultural challenges. As I have already said, culturally we people always think that an NGO means non-profit, or they are totally dependent on charity or on donation. Now, this is something which has to change. The mindset has to change. It is thought that in the pursuit of commercial funding and commercial operation, the organization's social mission may get neglected. So, you see, this often happens. After all, we are all human beings, and there is always a problem that the social mission may somehow get diluted or may get diverted, and all the attention may get focused to profit making. So this is one of the challenges which again social entrepreneurs face in their day-to-day working. Hence, losing credibility in the society is one of the biggest reasons for social entrepreneurs for not thinking about financial sustainability and concentrating only on fulfilling social objectives. So, we have seen that even if social entrepreneurs want to generate revenue, because of this cultural problem where people's mindset is such, they are not ready to go for self-sustaining enterprises which generates revenue for them. There is also a lack of medium and long-term investment, like they don't have investors, ready to invest in their businesses. Often the governments and foundations are the major source of finance for social enterprises who provide funding for only part of the project, which is usually for a year. So as I said that you see, government organizations or other foundations, they will not keep funding for a very long period of time or forever. They might just start a project, but then later on it is up to the social enterprise how they sustain themselves. So they have to look for investors, they have to look for some ways by which they can generate revenue for themselves. And nowadays, even the foundations, people or organizations who are ready to fund, they like to fund those organizations which are self-sustaining in the long run. So even the foundations are a little skeptical about funding social enterprises, and they are nowadays funding only those organizations in whom they see the possibility of self-sustaining their enterprise for a long period of time. So nowadays what we see is that due to all these reasons, especially financial problems, social entrepreneurs spend most of their time and energy looking for finances rather than focusing on their work. So this is also a big challenge which social entrepreneurs are facing. Alright, we have already talked about the challenges or the problems that social entrepreneurs face in running their enterprises. Now, I'll tell you about the motivation. You see, social entrepreneurs face so many problems, so many challenges. Then what is it which motivates them? In spite of facing a large number of problems, social entrepreneurs are not deterred from taking up social issues and finding solutions for them. Unlike commercial entrepreneurs, social entrepreneurs are not motivated by money or power. I'm sure by this time you all know that social entrepreneurs are not the normal kind of breed of entrepreneurs who are often motivated by money or for power. They are definitely not the money-making people or people who are looking for power. They are people who are motivated by the urge and wish to change the society. You see, I told you, they are there to solve a problem in the society. So they are looking for other kind of rewards and not monetary rewards. They are motivated by a feeling of compassion. Compassion is an emotion that links an individual with a suffering community. I took the example of opening a blind school. You see, people, not everybody would think of opening a blind school. Only that person will think of opening a blind school who is compassionate enough with the blind people. So, a social entrepreneur often has a link connected with the heart, with the suffering community. So, upon seeing the others suffer, social entrepreneurs suffer with them and feel their pain. So, this has to be there. Unless you feel the pain of the suffering community, you won't think of solving their problem or working for them. The feeling of compassion motivates social entrepreneurs who try to alleviate others' suffering. They are driven by a problem they have spotted and taken up, and a vision that what they are doing is providing social value and well-being to their targeted group. I'll take some of the examples. One example which comes to my mind is that of Mother Teresa. You see, Mother Teresa was a Polish woman who came to India. She was from Poland. She was not an Indian. She came to India and she worked for Loreto Convent, and she used to teach in Loreto Convent in the city of Calcutta as a teacher of geography. But while she used to teach in the classroom, she felt that, this is not what she is made for. This is not what she wants to do. And she was often a lot, saddened by the suffering seen by her of people lying on the streets of Calcutta who were often lepers and beggars and poor people who were living a very impoverished life, and they were all diseased peoples, lying down helplessly on the streets of Calcutta. And Mother Teresa somehow felt that this is not what she is there for. She is not there to educate small children, and her work is something else. She connected a bond with the people suffering on the streets of Calcutta, and she wanted to do something for them. As a result, she resigned. So Mother Teresa was not very happy with working for the Loreto Convent, and as a teacher she didn't want to carry on. So what she decided one day was that I have to exit from Loreto Convent, and she started her own organization called Missionaries of Charity. And this Missionaries of Charity worked for the beggars, the lepers, the diseased on the streets of Calcutta. And today Missionaries of Charity is quite a known body which works tirelessly for the diseased people, for the helpless people, even for the orphan children. So it's done a big thing in India, and for that Mother Teresa was also given the Nobel Peace Prize. So she did a lot without being a born Indian. As an Indian she got the Nobel Peace Prize. So she did so much for a country like India. Another example which comes to my mind is that of Baba Amte. He was motivated to help the lepers in India. He again was a lawyer by profession. He was, he came from a well-to-do family. His father was a rich man. His family was well-to-do. But suddenly one fine day he decided that, listen, I don't want to be a lawyer anymore. And he quit law. And he then he established his own organization called Anandvan in the year 1949. To help the lepers and other disabled people by providing them with livelihood capabilities. So he came from an affluent family and he was already working in a lucrative profession as a lawyer, but Baba Amte relinquished them all to serve the lepers. He is today considered the savior of thousands of lepers in India. He was awarded the Right Livelihood Award in the year 1991. And on receiving the reward, he said, "I want no Nobel Prize. I have ever sought but a Nobel enterprise. The smile of a man who is oppressed or a child who is suffering is what I covet more than any award." Now, after these two examples, I'm sure now you know what social entrepreneurs are and what are they made of. Now, let me tell you a little more about the relevance, how social entrepreneurs and how their enterprises are relevant in today's world. You see, social entrepreneurs often address social issues which government and other welfare organizations fail to do. Social issues are problems which are prevalent in the society. Some of the examples which I have already spoken about are poverty, illiteracy, and unemployment. Social entrepreneurs address the social issues by creating a social enterprise. Social enterprises, they recognize, evaluate, and exploit opportunities that result in social value creation. In the West, social entrepreneurship ventures combine financial success with social value creation by offering new ways of thinking for all sectors of society. A social enterprise seeks to create social value by using a market-based business model to financially sustain itself and its value creation. They serve a double bottom line, which is a mix of financial and social returns at times, and at times even a triple bottom line, which is a mix of financial, social, and environmental returns. Social value is created when an organization creates greater social benefit for comparable cost. You see, that's how we are able to evaluate social value, because we don't have quantifiable parameters for that. A social benefit is a solution to a social problem that accrues to society or a targeted segment of the population as opposed to an individual or specific organization. So you see, in the West, they believe in double bottom line, in triple bottom line, which is both financial, social, and environmental, or at times only social and financial. But unfortunately, in India, I think it will take a little more time to when people, government, and the society will realize that social entrepreneurs' duty is not only to bring about social contribution or bringing social value to the community they are serving, but also try to generate revenue. So it's very important that double bottom line ideology is followed, that is providing both the social returns as well as financial returns from social enterprise. So let's see how much time more our social entrepreneurs will take to change their mindset and even the mindset of the Indian society towards them. Now let me just quickly summarize the entire lecture. You see, this is what we did. We have done social entrepreneurs are people who find solutions to problems which are prevalent in the society. They take up social issues which are neglected by others and which the government and other welfare organizations fail to address.